Yep.
Luckily, the courts were like, shut up.
No. This is just going everywhere.
Yeah, it's just stupid stuff. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into the discussion here. Discussion is how to write a fanfic. Brony Show style. So these are our tips, suggestions, and ideas on how one should approach writing a fanfic. Whether you take these ideas or not is purely up to you. Some of us may write some fanfics. We have no professional opinions, and our word might be complete crap. Or you may be able to actually do some of the things we say do not do. Obviously, these are just suggestions that are coming from our many experience. Wait, what?
I can give a lot of advice on that.
Yep. These are just suggestions coming from our multitude of experiences from reading fanfics, going to different fanfic panels, and seeing some of the horrors and atrocities when it comes to actually writing fanfics.
And then there's me, the fanfiction writer on panel.
Yeah, so we actually do have a fanfic right here. So you got a little bit of professionalism other than just our opinion. But
5 years writing this stuff, and I'm still going.
Mine isn't just opinion. I have made somewhat.
Yeah.
And I've actually done a little bit of writing on my own, and I do know some of the basic structure and idea of what you need to go across. At the same time, obviously, I understand that in some cases, some things will work, even though they shouldn't. But we will get into that in just a moment. Okay, hold on, there's somebody else asking something here real fast. Alright, so we're going to start off with the whole idea of why you want to write a fanfic. Now, maybe something came to mind like, you know what, it would be awesome if this happened. Or, I like this video game here. I like Chrono Trigger, and I like ponies. Will they bend?
Well, also something else that a lot of people tend to fail at in the idea is, how will this work if you were to say it aloud instead of just going, oh, it would be cool. For example, I'm going to have to plug myself as a good reference, but whenever I thought of Bionicles and ponies, it took me several months to finally get up the idea of, why don't I just make the Bionicle characters pony, but keep the mythos separate, yet bleed into each other in different ways?
Alright, actually, we're going to be bringing one other person in for the topic of this conversation in general. We have Sapphire, who is apparently, who reads fanfiction regularly and actually does edit and clean up people's submissions. So I figure that Sapphire would definitely have some really good ideas on these topics.
Yeah.
Hello, Sapphire.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Alright, now the first thing that we're going to be talking about when it comes to creating your fanfic is prep work. What you need to set up, what the absolute first things that you need to do, or you should definitely do, before you actually start writing fanfic. And the first one is quite obvious. Have an idea. You need to know what your fanfic is going to be. You can't, it's just exactly like an artist. Some artists you could sit down and start sketching. Some fanfic writers, they could start writing whatever they start... Say what? No, really, I didn't hear that.
He said April.
But the thing is that with fanfic writing, yeah, you can write little short stories, little dumb ideas, just write down little scenes, but you need to have a full, complete, basic idea of what story you want the story to be. If it's going to be a short story or a novella, is it going to be a poem? Is it just going to be a quick offshoot? Is it going to be clopping material? You need to know exactly what you're going to do.
Shipwreck writers?
Clopping material, really?
We're going to go ahead and address that a little bit as well.
In all spectrums
In fanfiction...
Okay, so basically
Is it gonna be Pinkamena material? I should ask that one.
Okay,
also,
shipwreck writers.
Most fanfiction sites have ratings, similar to what the ESRB does for games, where you have kids, teens, and mature for adults only.
Well, the thing is,
but those are the three groups that you are writing for.
Yeah, you got to know who you're writing for. You got to know what you're writing. Are you going to be writing just a little story about Flush Eye's experience at the zoo? Or are you going to be writing about Pinkie Pie having just a little bit too much sugar? Are you going to be writing about the Mythbuster somehow creating a portal into Equestria, and then they do Mythbust testing with Celestia, trying to find out if Discord is flammable?
Are you going to talk about
Well, actually, there's already a fic based around that.
How is there a fic on that? I made that up!
No, it's not the Mythbusters themselves. It's Rainbow Dash and Applejack doing it with the CNC being the build team. and
Okay, I can
It's
see it.
Wait, I
pretty
thought
good.
that went on hiatus, or just never finished.
It didn't finish, but it was still very good. And by the way, they have proven in Equestria, chocolate milk blows up.
Okay. Well, in any case, the whole thing is you need to have a concrete idea of what kind of story you want to weave. It could be anything. It really can be anything that you want it to be, but you need to know what it is.
Trust the idea balls in your manatee tank.
Yes. Yes, trust the idea balls. If it sounds silly, go for it. It could be a silly story, but silly stories sometimes actually still have their audiences. Fallout Equestria was written as a general story, and it expanded into a big, I don't even know the term for it, a community of its own.
It basically developed its own universe. It sort of that multiverse idea. It sort of created another universe for writers to explore.
Yep, all it was just a combination of Fallout and Pony. That's all it was, and it created its own universe that way.
You know, one of the biggest fanfics that I've read that I found the most interesting was, have you ever heard of the Button Mash Chronicle, Swedish Match Chronicles?
Yes.
Not until I've heard a little bit of it.
One of the first fanfics I read. I can't help it. I like that one.
Yeah, I've heard some things about it. I haven't really read too much of it, actually.
Dude, Button's mom blows a hole in the school.
Exactly. That was freaking awesome.
Okay, now I'm definitely interested.
She pretty much almost got arrested.
Okay, now let's see here. Now the next thing with prep work, you got to have your idea. Make sure you write down a basic synopsis, what you want, from beginning to end. Know where you're starting and know where it's ending. The middle work can all be done as you're writing, but you need to know where the story is going to go. Is it just going to be a quick, she got off the bus, that was it, fair enough. But if it's like an epic war between two entire griffins and ponies, and somehow there's subterranean moles that decide to make...
Two entire griffins versus the ponies.
Yes.
In the ponies. Do not
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't help it. That just made me laugh.
But yes, a beginning and an ending must be done. You have to know how the story is going to end.
Yes, it's like how several YouTube shows have played out that I watch regularly. Sometimes they have like, well, whenever I do this thing, that's how you know the series is ending, and you have to be able to, as a writer, say yes, there is a stopping point, because when you have people like me trying to help edit your fic, I will not be too pleased when you tell me, oh, well, I don't have all the kinks worked out yet.
Yeah. Yes, an ending is the most important thing. Hopefully you will get all the way to the ending, but if you don't know how you're going to end the story and you start writing it, it can get away from you real fast.
Okay.
That was my thing, was that I had the first, like, the fic wanted to start writing like a year ago. Like, I had the first half down pat. I knew how I wanted it to end, but I didn't know how the second half would work out. And I'm thinking about the point now where I just have to start writing and see what comes. But, like, that's the big barrier, is that you'll be like, I'm really motivated. I don't know what to do at the beginning to make it tie in to the end.
Yeah, that is definitely a problem.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because, like, same goes for, like, when I say I start songwriting. Like, at one point, I started making a song, I completely forgot what I was even using for theme for the lyrics. I still have it written down, too. I partially remember the theme, but even though I remember the theme, I can't think of new lyrics for it. I pretty much went nowhere with that one.
Okay.
I will say this,
Let's see.
Sorry.
I was just gonna go with. Well, I remember. Well, I started thinking about how bummed I was. Then I remembered I really wanted a grilled cheese sandwich.
I'll say this: if you have an idea that pops into your head, you think, "Oh, that'd be kind of cool. I'll work on that later." You need to immediately write the general theme of that idea down.
Time it popped into my head was, I believe it was like 11 o'clock at night on a school night. Okay, that's why I never continued with it.
Right.
I had to go to bed.
Make sure you have a notepad with you at all times. The moment you have that idea, write it down.
You don't even need a notepad. Your smartphone has.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, notepad.
What you can do is you can record yourself with a smartphone.
You can do that as well. Give me a break. I like doing old school things sometimes.
Yeah, be Norm MacDonald dirty work.
Yeah, my notes
Yeah,
are right.
but the software that I use to write is OpenOffice, which is free and works just like Microsoft Word, except again.
Actually, we'll pick it to that in a moment. We need to work on prep work, getting how you start the actual process of everything.
Yeah, That's also kind of my own prep work. I use OpenOffice for ideas as well.
Oh, so you just use OpenOffice and write down the ideas there?
Yeah, that's one way. But also,
okay, fair enough.
If you start working off that idea while thinking it up, you can then look back and say, that's a good story.
Something else that kind of ties into prep work is actually reading other stories, because it helps expand your vocabulary and get more exposure to what ideas are out there. That's just reading in general will help you write.
Right. The one big thing that people are worried about is that if they read those stories, they might get inspiration and accidentally copy some of their material. It's not a bad thing all the time.
Yeah.
If copy the entire thing that somebody else does, that's bad. But
you are writing a fanfic based off a show, so you're already in that territory.
Yes.
We have the same issue with
here's
this too.
one of the things from my major fanfics that may seem like copy. I made Nightmare Moon through a backstory, Luna's daughter, and that could be seen as me ripping off Nyx from Past Sins, simply because that's a Philly Nightmare Moon. See how that can be considered a copycat move?
In some cases, people might even point it out. It might be a copycat move. You could draw inspiration. I have heard so many times that this story is inspired by this. This music is inspired by this. In some cases, they basically almost rip it off. Music nowadays... never mind. I'm not getting into that rant.
Let's not go into the Pandora's box that is Pandora and its selection of music.
See,
right, but in any case,
I was gonna say this. Remember the age-old adage: Simpsons did it.
There.
Or like the same kind of stuff of going into like what happened to Jan Animation. I technically don't know fully what happened to that.
There's a whole nother mess with there, and we've actually explored
they're
it.
actually working
But
it out.
that's more into fan animation.
They're working it out, and it was basically the cause of an overzealous law firm. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Well, they were making the Button Mash Chronicles into a scene. I would love to see that.
But there's still hope. There's still hope. But we'll get that's another topic another time.
I hope.
They're doing stuff.
Yeah, that's another topic another time. Let's continue on with what we got here. So, yes, read up on other people's works. Go ahead and expand your vocabulary, expand your ideas. It's only said that there are 26 original ideas for stories anyway. It all depends on how you present it.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen there's so many stupid comedies I see nowadays where it's the exact same 3-story structure, but it doesn't mean that a comedy is any bad or good. You can still enjoy it just because of how they present the story.
There are gourmet restaurants that specialize in production and perfection of mac and cheese. Like, you can, just because it's a simple idea that's been done before doesn't mean you can't make it of your own.
Yeah.
Yep.
But another thing in the prep work is that you have to have passion and know what you're writing about, as opposed to going into something that you have no idea about. Let's say I want to write a Kamen Rider fic, but I've only seen one Kamen Rider, and I write a different fic about a previous Kamen Rider. I would have to watch all the episodes and look into all the background information before I start writing.
Right. That is a big one. You make sure you have the passion to do what you want to do. If you're doing it because somebody else tells you to, or you're doing it because you feel like you have to do it,
you're going to do it because you want to be famous.
Yeah, you're going in there for the wrong mindsets. That will destroy you.
Yeah, kind of like how I first got into music. Like, I will listen to music just all the time. Just doing that, I eventually just wanted to start making it, but I had no idea how to even make it. As long as you've got the passion.
Actually, here's an interesting question on Crim, and I'll definitely throw it out here. What happens if you use the same words or synonyms many times? Does it make the story stale?
It can, but if you don't do it like Twilight said this, or Rainbow Dash said this within the same sentence, you could switch it up. Instead of always saying Twilight, you could go, the purple alicorn glared at the rainbow-maned Pegasus. You change up and describe who it is after you say their name.
Or put a little motion behind it. Twilight glowered at Rainbow Dash as she spoke back.
It's irrelevant.
It's the beauty.
It's irrelevant during drafting phase, so if you see a lot of that as you're writing, don't worry about it, because you can always go back and expand.
Yeah, just be very concerned if you're starting to see, like, Oh crap! I actually started doing it. If you are reading your sentences and it literally reads, and she was like feeling like so horribly wrong, and like it was so awesome, like
you only use like in two ways. One, to have a character say they enjoy something without it being, oh, I enjoy this and I enjoy that. Or if you use it as a simile or something you compare it to.
Yeah.
If you want to know how good your vocabulary is, write a story without using the word very even once.
Yeah.
Because
better
there are
if you
words that
can
mean very X.
Or talk to somebody and see if you can completely screw up their brain just by giving them different words and trying to describe something in the most overcomplicated way possible.
And this goes all the way back to the beauty of language itself, and that you can leave certain words out, and it implied that that word is still present within, that sentence. And it's basically like, saying someone's name and then saying he or she, or basically this person was like this, and I don't know. You can basically do a lot of interesting things without that many words. And
of course, that's why you want to read other people's stories. You want to see how they structure their phrases, how they structure the emotions the characters are expressing, or even how they talk to one another. It'll give you some ideas of what you can and possibly can't do. Again, these are our suggestions. Some people might actually be able to pull off doing some things that we say is a bad idea.
And if I may just quickly say this. If you write a story, but then later on find out it's copyright, don't get too down about it. That's happened before where, say, like the time when, I know a friend who wrote a story. Later on, about 2 weeks later, he found out that there was a story exactly the same as the story that he made, but he never even knew about it. Never let that get you down.
Yeah.
That's something else, because I've come across that in my own writing, and you just say, if someone says, hey, you're taking this, and I go, I didn't even know this was a thing, and then you read it and say, oh, it does sound similar, but not exact.
Yeah,
the worst that can happen is you have to change some character names and the title.
Yeah, that's probably the worst case. You may have to just change up a couple of characters' names. You're not going to have to change the situation too much. I mean, how many post-apocalyptic games have there been?
Yeah. And look at how many people have contributed to Fallout.
Actually, I'm not even kidding. I mean, every other game on Steam seems to be post-apocalyptic. Post-apocalyptic Minecraft. Post-apocalyptic walking around with a rock and underwear. Whatever. Anyway.
Rust.
No room in hell.
Any case, I think that should pretty much sum up for our prep work. Let's go ahead and go to setting up. You have your idea. Now you got to start getting yourself set up. First thing, give yourself a location. I'm sure I can phrase that better, but I don't know how.
Universe building.
Give yourself a place to write. Find your little sanctuary that you can sit down and hammer out what you're trying to write. If a noisy area that's full of people and you're okay with that, that's fine. If you need quiet seclusion and a coffee place, go with that. Find that place where you can just go ahead and write without concern. Hopefully it's one that you can get to without too many issues.
Also, if you are in a place, if your family's one that just calls your name and you have to go do something, know that if you stop, you can always come back and think over something if you're stuck. Because that is a part of setup if you are just about ready to write and think over something and go, is that a good idea? You get called off to do something else and you think it over while you work. That's just one of the ways I've done it before.
Alright. Yes, you gotta make sure you get your location to write. Make sure you have, well, you got your software typing. Can any guys give any suggestions on how to get set up for this?
Yeah,
as I said, OpenOffice is a good way if you want to have Microsoft Word type of thing without having to pay for it.
Yeah, but a good way to get yourself up is make sure you don't have any outstanding issues that you need to take care of before you write. Make sure that there's nothing that'll possibly weed its way into the story. if you need to do something that day and it's not been done, you know, that can weigh heavily into your productivity. And you basically, the most important thing is you need to be comfortable. If you're not comfortable with what you're doing, how are your readers going to feel when they read it, you know? And how am I going to feel when I edit a story when I can tell that this person is, like, really feeling like, you know, they need to get out there and it's sort of stressful for them, you know? If it's stressful, then why do it?
But the flip side of that is if you use writing as the vent and someone who comes in afterwards and checks, you have to go, okay, do I really want to be this mad and have the people see it whenever it's out of character with the story?
Basically, it's like with anything, you have to approach it differently than your personal life, you know? It is your personal life, but in a way it's not. It's what you want to show people about yourself, not, you know, what you actually... Basically, it's a story, you know? You're not trying to advertise yourself, you're trying to advertise your story.
And just from personal experience, for writers, it's always fun to read a story that you know that the writer put in their own you know that they were feeling emotion when they were writing this, when they wanted it to be that certain emotion. They also felt it themselves. I'm trying to explain it a certain way.
Yeah, you got
that.
Right
you're setting up
empathetically.
the writing, you gotta have an emotion. You have to become an actor in a sense and be the characters that you are writing. That way you can go, okay, in this mindset, what would the emotion be? But
to a point, when it comes to writing your OC, in terms of your pony Sona, you need to
back off from making the OC a Gary Stu or a Mary Stu.
Well, we'll get into that in a little bit. We're just doing the setup part.
It's relatively easy to set up nowadays since computers and software has made it so very easy.
Well, it's easy, but at the same time, it's not as easy. You can still get distracted quite easily with just the internet or video games or even looking through your collection of files. You're just suddenly trying to write, and then it's like, oh, look, I haven't gone through my documents in about 6 months, and you find out you thumbed through it for the last 30 minutes. Yeah, you got to make sure you keep yourself undistracted.
Someone had a question earlier. It was Krim. Say if a fanfic starring an OS, where'd it go? Anyway, you want to talk? He was talking about locations. Yeah, feel free to create locations. You're not writing the script for the show. Do whatever you need to do to break your story. You don't feel like you're nailed down to even the character in the show. Make your own universe if you have to.
And this is a bit old school, but one time someone came to me for suggestions on how to better their productivity and get set up a little bit better, and I realized that they were using an older computer, Windows XP, and I said Control-Delete, go to Processes, hit Explorer.exe. There you go. Now you have nothing on your screen except the page. Get to writing.
Yeah, but also there are some people like me who like listening to music while they write. That's another thing. If you like listening to music, I would suggest putting it on your headphones and just going like that and think it up while you hear it. If a certain song comes on, you can feel that emotion into the writing that you're about to do.
If you're tempted to go on the YouTube train when you're listening to music, I'd say do your music from your phone while you're on Wi-Fi, so that the only thing on your desktop is whatever you're writing on.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you have an iPod.
Different people use their webpage differently.
Oh my gosh, the smartphone market totally killed the iPod. I don't understand how that's still a thing.
Well, it may have killed... In all honesty, kind of yes, kind of no. The iPod does tend to have a better battery life and plus more storage space than most phones.
And to my understanding, you can also download Brony tunes onto the phones, too.
Well, there's that, too, yeah. Also, be sure to tune into Brony Tunes or Ponyville's Hoof Sounds. All good stuff.
Yeah, got plug them.
I'm still waiting for my spot on the DJ roll on Brony Tunes. I gotta wait for an email.
Alright, but yeah, I believe we got pretty much everything there for a setup, so let's go ahead and get into the actual writing of the fanfic. First thing, Marry Sue carefully. If you absolutely need to have a Mary Sue, don't do it just because you want to have a person that is unflappable. This isn't your... Well, granted, people write stories because they want to feel powerful and that they're able to overcome everything. The idea of a Mary Sue already being on top of the world does not work. It's the hero that has to go the journey and fight his way to the top that is always more interesting than the hero who is already there.
Or you could spin on the head and have your character be the villain of the story, but make him sympathetic, like everyone in his family died, and he's put into this place where he is the lord of the castle, but he can only be awake for about an hour, or to fight a hero that enters the castle.
Or you can have
that.
Or you can have a diversity where it'll seem like it's going to have a happy ending, but it turns into a completely horrifying, you did not see that coming ending. Oh my god, I've read one of those.
Yeah,
something I'm trying to do, and I hope more people try to do, is you can actually try starting with a character who isn't an orphan. Like, I feel like that's a trope right now, is to have someone...
That is the Mary Sue. That is the Mary Sue. You have the orphan that has incredible powers. How about the kid that actually had a pretty decent life and he's just a normal guy going around his day?
Yeah, that's something else that I like to use in my own writing. I don't do orphan characters. Matter of fact, the only orphan character in my Bionicle and MOP fanfic is Scootaloo, but that ties into the plot on why she's an orphan.
Yeah, and the only orphan on my end is actually technically my own OC. I mean, I'm trying to write.
Yeah, but...
Yeah, okay, but in any case, I'm getting a little bit back to track. Mary Suing is not always bad. It is it's hard to do. Admittedly, it's very hard to do because Mary Sues usually are so uninteresting and they basically cannot be stopped. But if you can actually use the Mary Sue trope for fun too. You can have a person that seems to be or supposed to be Mr. Perfect and they keep doing everything wrong.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit more hilarious. You think they know what they're doing and they're getting everything wrong, or they do everything perfectly, but nobody likes them for it because they are Mr. Perfect and they're just annoying as hell.
Yeah. Again, Pepsins with Nyx. Some people call her Mary Sue simply because they think, oh, she's so perfect and she does nothing wrong. Clearly, those people haven't read it. I haven't read it either, but I've seen some of the comics based on the story, and yeah. Nyx is not a Mary Sue. She's close, but not.
Right. For those of you who don't know what a Mary Sue is, just Google it. You'll figure it out real fast.
Yeah, and I believe the tip started from a Star Trek fan fiction.
Yeah.
This person named Mary Sue was the one that beat up everyone, beat Klingons, and was better than Captain Kirk, who was already a Gary Stu, the male equivalent of said trope.
Well, no, it's well, kind of, yes, but it gets a whole nother mess up there. But basically, your character does not have to be dating the main six. Your character does not have to be an orphan. Your character does not have to be the child with bat wings. Your character does not have to have dragon eyes. Your character does not have to have a tail that perpetually catches on fire.
You can pretty much even just write about an entirely just normal life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your character doesn't have to be your own original character. Blanky Pie.
You don't.
Something that I've come across. I originally created wolf dragons as my OCs, which that already sounds overpowered by itself, but I explained what happened and to them why they were orphans simply because, well, they got attacked and separated from their parents.
Okay,
that's the reason why they're orphans, but they found another person to train and be stronger so that they would find their parents. So them being orphans is the reason for them to get back to their parents. Not just, oh, their parents are dead for no reason.
Yeah, no, parents dying for no reason, that's...
Yeah, parents dying for no reason. Again, common trope.
You gotta always give a reason.
But that's how you do a story. If you want to use tropes, use them, but don't use them lazy.
Don't abuse them. Yeah, don't abuse them. Don't just they're an orphan.
Use it, abuse it.
Okay.
Okay, but
I'm sorry, I had to say that. I had to say that.
Okay,
yeah.
let me also put one thing this way though. if you are actively choosing to abuse tropes, please for the love of God be doing something funny.
Don't use it in
Yeah,
abuse.
another thing that I came up with, simply so I could do whatever I want with Pinkie Pie, I created a book where it's written by Deadpool on everything done in the universe, called Comic Relief's Guide to the Fourth Wall and What May Come From It.
That
All right.
And I
sounds
did that
interesting.
simply so, if I want Pinkie to say information, she reads it out of a book made by Deadpool. And we already know Deadpool's hopped around the multiverse at least once. So...
Alright. Well, okay, now we'll get back to the chat room here just a little bit. Okay, Kid Chaos 64 brings up an interesting one. How about a story where it's a future Twilight's ruler and fully powered Alicorn all the power? Depends on how you approach that story. If you're approaching it as Twilight is the hero and she ends up fighting this big immense evil and just does it just by yawning or suddenly becoming the one and has a horn made out of crystal, yeah, no, that's a little bit lazy. But if maybe Twilight goes a little power mad and then, she has to be brought back down to reality or something else, that could work a little bit more into the favor. It depends on how you approach it. You can have a character that's all powerful.
I know for a fact that there are a lot of fan fiction where they try and get Spike to have his dragon family involved in his life for the fic. And the only one I've seen that truly does that very well, that's been completed, is Another Dragon in Ponyville, which explained dragons that came up with the whole idea.
Okay, Dio also brings up a good point. I'll let him speak actually here, so we can have it in the podcast as well.
In the podcast? Okay. So someone asked, how do you make balanced OCs? The important thing to remember about balanced is it's never going to be perfectly balanced. In fact, because it's a story, it should be dynamic. The way strengths and weaknesses work is, you gotta think of it like a real person. Like, they may be good at something, but they have something that holds them back. Maybe it's ambitions, or something in their past, or a fear. But giving a character the power, like a really awesome broken power, and then having them have some stupid weakness, like they're deathly allergic to peanuts, or they're afraid of cats. That's not balance.
No, that's a gag.
No, having them have god powers, but actually being maybe, I don't know, having another god character that literally gives them the balance of yin-yang, then fair enough, but yeah.
Yeah.
Giving them a stupid weakness is just stupid.
Yeah, and
doesn't work.
Again, going back to my wolf dragons, I gave them the power of earth, water, fire, and wind. But the counterbalance is one can only run on the ground and the other one can fly. And they also have some psychic powers, but they are world hoppers, so it's to their advantage.
And
now, I play it off as they have to follow the rules of the world. They can't dramatically change it just because, they have powers, they can change things. No, they are not of that world, they cannot change it, they can only help what they can. They can't do, they overthrow Hitler in a US-controlled Nazi Germany.
Okay,
a Nazi Germany control over US.
Tokoi.
Much, I know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Getting a little bit back on track here. Let's see. What if OC is supposed to be very unbalanced? That could be a weird balance in itself. But the thing is, you just gotta approach everything carefully. Anything can be done. You can't have a Mary Sue that's overpowered but has a weird dramatic weakness that actually can play well into the story, but you cannot make it like an everyday object or something silly. Or you maybe can make it something silly just for the sake of a hilarious storyline. These are general rules. These are general guidelines to help you get an idea of how to get started before you can go ahead and start wiggling around. I've seen fanfics that do some really silly, stupid stuff, but they make it work because they know it's silly, stupid stuff.
Yeah. I think that's always the best way to go about it, is that if you're going to do something that just seems silly, you should really never take it seriously. That's the problem. Is that people put these ridiculous things into something they expect you to take it seriously. Perfect example of maybe not a fan fiction, but of basically taking something that just went silly and just completely going with it. Look at the anime Gurren Lagann.
Oh yeah.
Think about how ridiculous and silly that got.
Yeah, but it it also took itself seriously, but it was still making
No,
fun
no,
of
it kind of took itself seriously, but not at the same time, just because of how stupid it was at the same time.
Just
They
have
were-
a reason for everything you do.
They were fighting with galaxies.
Yeah, come on. There's no way you could take that
Yeah,
seriously.
but here's the thing: if you did that with, say, ponies, and you didn't explain how they're fighting with galaxies, you wouldn't have, again, Mary Sue's.
Maybe you shouldn't explain it. Maybe they're just fighting with galaxies just because they felt like it.
True.
Here's a lion! Eat it!
And plus, there was, going back to the hero building up sort of thing, the idea of like RPGs of like building up your character and whatnot. It's better to have someone have to work for something than them already having it and being like, where's there to go? What am I to do? How am I
here's an
going to
interesting
the
thought.
story? Go ahead.
Sorry.
You're fine.
That's a very good way, but also just having it being thrust upon them, like they choose to go on a quest and suddenly something different happens than what the characters themselves were expecting.
Well, just for a quick switch on the topic here. We were talking about having the character build up and grow in strength. Just keep in mind your character is not Goku.
Oh,
Your
yes.
character is
Oh,
not
yes.
Naruto. Your character is not the Avatar. Though, granted, if you can do a story where they are Goku, they are Naruto, they are the Avatar, fair enough. But most of the time, your character is not going to be that. Be realistic about the growth. They are not going to be able to go from lifting a pebble to lifting a boulder overnight. Even Goku had to take months on that sucker.
Yeah. You know what I kind of suggest in that. That's what I kind of suggest for like character building, and I'm gonna kind of go back to RPGs here.
Go for it.
Yeah, you have your main storyline, but honestly, like throwing in chapters that are just like little side stories, if you do them right, you can use those chapters as your character development.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
like essentially, you know, like an RPG, you have your main story, and then you basically have side quests. Throw in some side quests on your adventure story.
Oh, Krim's got it. Krim has got the one question I wanted to make sure got answered. Regarding of genre, do all stories need to have conflict or suffering? No.
No.
Dear God, no. No. Oh, dear God, there's too much drama anyway.
well, here's something from my own writing. I've written to a point where I've more or less had a possible rape scene, but I didn't make it a rape scene simply because I went, no, that's too far, that's too mean, that's too evil. But I made it so that you would feel like, where's this going from? Then it's fade to black, another story goes on.
Okay. Anyway, but getting back to the point here. Now, the thing is that, yes, people do drama because they think it makes it interesting. They think it makes it deep. It doesn't. In all honesty, drama is a tool, and in all honesty, it gets way too overplayed. Dear world, not everything has to be a tragedy.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't have to have your cat dying every single time you turn around. You don't have to have your mother going up in flames just because something went wrong. Sometimes you could have a decent day or a good day. You do not have to have somebody that is suffering every single moment of their life. So much too.
I agree with you, Rayo. Attack on Titan's good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Way too much drama on that. Way too much.
Yeah.
I mean, I could if I felt like going through it, I could probably go through my fanfiction favorites and find a good couple of stories where it's literally if you think about the idea of the story, you'd think it's just a waste of your time, but because it's essentially a day just went by. That's really it.
Yeah.
But you know what? When they wrote it, they wrote the characters, and I actually enjoyed kind of watching them go through their day. So, reading through their day.
One of those stories that I actually do like is It Takes a Village, a Spike story that I recommended a few episodes back on the Brony show, or something like that. Where you can see a grown-up Spike having to deal with things, and there's little conflict. Heck, the conflict comes in at the end with a dragon that we already knew was in the area.
But and on the extreme opposite of things I've read.
Fan fictions, and I haven't even read most of them yet.
Yeah.
Okay, but in any case, getting back on track here. Yeah, you don't need to have drama. And going off to another track, some of you are wondering how do you make a balanced character? Sometimes you don't have to start with your own creation. You can actually adopt characters that are already existing. A lot of fanfic writers have always suggested try writing a fanfic with already established main six. You already know how their temperaments are. You know how they are like. You know, Rainbow Dash is not the end-all be-all. You know, Twilight Sparkle is maybe a princess, but she is still a screw-up of a princess. They have their flaws still, even now, so you can easily use that to get an idea of a story across, and at the same time, find out how to really flesh out a character, show how they're, you know, how they can overcome their shortcomings and still be able to do what they need to do in a day-to-day life. You don't need to have OC characters in everything you build. Yeah, some people are going to get a little butthurt because you use an OC one of your characters, one of their characters. Screw them, but that's another thing. You can use the main six. You can use the main six. You can use background characters. You can use the villains. They are not they're copyrighted, but they're not made for only somebody to use. Anybody can use them.
The one villain I prefer that somebody please use, because I do not see him used enough, is Sombra.
Really?
Really? I do not see him used enough.
I've seen a ton of him suddenly pop up.
Yeah.
I haven't
Krim.
Here's the thing. We have, in the show itself, they've given us a perfect fan fiction option with his horn. He could be revived with his horn.
Alright, but in any case, Krim actually comes up with another quick question. Do you have to watch the show so many times in order to learn the character's likes, dislikes, flaws, without them going out of character?
It certainly helps.
It helps, but at the same time, if they go slightly out of character, it's not too bad all the time. Admittedly, people screw up. If you're having Rainbow Dash suddenly betraying everybody and trying to lay Big Macintosh and take over Equestria, yeah, you may have to try to explain what the hell is going on there.
Well, one of those things seems to happen a lot.
Yeah, the betrayal isn't fully out of character now, thanks to Season 4.
Actually, I was going with the Big Mac one, but whatever.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're having your character go completely off the rails, having a character do something slightly out of character, fair enough. But if you're having somebody go completely off the rails, either you don't know what in the world you're doing, or you better have a freaking good excuse for that.
Daddy, if you're killing off characters, you're on your own.
Yeah.
No, that's actually something that I've dealt with before. If you do kill off your OC, don't make it just I killed him off screen. If he's friends with the main six and has worked up to that, and you kill him, show reactions to them.
Actually, be very careful about being friends with the main six or anything like that either. Those are very Mary Sue-ish territories, and yeah, they can tend to be a little bit toe-steppy.
Part of the problem about this fandom being where it is you do have, as much as the issue is with writing Mary Sue characters, you also have an issue with writing Mary Sue stories, because unfortunately there are a lot of stories that have been done. Like, I know we touched on that earlier, but if the idea is really simple, and it's just X character from Earth gets turned into a pony and befriends the main six and ship fix, like, it's been done.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying don't write it.
Just don't expect a lot of praise out of that. Go ahead and write. The big thing here, one thing I do want to throw out there right now, since we approach this a little bit, write down whatever the hell you want. If you really do want to write a story where you're sleeping with every single one of the main six and you happen to become the king of Equestria, fair enough, go for it. The thing is, do not expect critical acclaim, praise, and expect a lot of backlash. That will come.
May I quickly just say, Rayo, you make a good point. What if you just make a story about politics?
It's been done.
Actually,
that's one of my favorites.
That can be a good story on its own, simply because you explain how the political system works.
Actually, I did. There was one politics story that we read. We actually interviewed the author. Unfortunately, it's blanking me right now.
I know where it is. Give me a minute.
Yeah, he knows what I'm talking about. But it was
Heraculus was that his name.
Oh yeah, I think yeah. But yeah, the whole idea was basically Speaker of the House of Representatives for Equestria is basically trying to do his day-to-day thing, and the politics behind everything that the princesses do and how they're having to clean up and do all sorts of silly things because the princesses do something like having a jam and custard war out of nowhere.
Yeah, but also they have to deal with stuff like Twilight and Company, who are citizens, but are a little bit more closer to princesses and military than just civilians.
Yeah, in any case, the whole idea is, an idea is a good idea as long as you can put some back to it. At the same time, you know, there are some things that you should try to avoid, there are some things you should work on, but it is your story and your creation however you want to make it.
There is one that just popped up I'm wondering about.
Shoot.
Some guy said that his fanfic is still incomplete, but it was more of a crossover with the Human Six meeting their counterparts in Equestria in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, this is one I was talking about, though. The from Ghost of Heraclitus. The whole idea is a comedy, but it's the politics behind everything that happens in Equestria, and it's actually funny. I love this story. It's really good stuff.
I do have. I actually just remembered a suggestion that I would definitely put out there. If you're concerned, if you're really concerned about the way you're writing characters to be taking this out of character, you want to know a tag that's really useful on fanfiction?
Alternate universe.
Thank you.
Yes, in fact, in all honesty, all fanfic should be considered alternate universe, and why in the world they don't. Why in the world, and nobody else considers that is beyond me.
So many things about alternate universes. Fanfic is just one of them. That's the best way to put it.
Well, here's my main reason for saying that, because you basically, if you just my main thing for that is just it's a way to make people shut up.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
But one quick thing here, just because that did come into play here. If you wanted to write a story about the original main six before Twilight became a princess, pre-season 3, go for it. Go ahead and make it pre-season 3. You don't have to have Twilight always be a princess. You could have it so Rainbow Dash isn't the element of loyalty, but the element of laughter. If you can make a story work with it, go with it.
If you can make a story like what was make a story between the time when Twilight was a kid, when she was accepted into the academy, to the point of when she started making friends with everybody down in Ponyville. Like, make a story in between there. That's something I'd like to see right there.
Let me see.
I'm pretty sure there's quite a few of those.
Okay, let me
there is? I can find that.
But in all honesty, Sonic has it right. The sky is the limit. Yes, there are some things that you should do in order to actually make it presentable and readable.
There are others you shouldn't.
But at the same time, it is your story. Just be sure to make it what you want.
I mean, hell, there's a series of fics that somebody's writing on FinFin right now that I'm reading that is pretty much it is a King Sombra Pinkie Pie ship fic, and it is actually really well done. That's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing of fan fiction. It is supposed to be the fans' fictional universe. It's not meant to be aligned with anything. It is that one person's fictional universe that they have thought up.
But let's go. I think it's a good time to go ahead and move on here. We got the basic ideas of writing the fic down. Now let's go to editing, and I believe that Sapphire should be the best to give us the best tips on editing.
Oh, yes. I love this.
I was going to say, just flat out, editors, use them.
Yes,
editors help
I'm
you.
Available.
Editors are your friends.
As someone who writes and does have editors, they are a godsend, especially whenever they contribute into the little flavor text before a fic.
Like, even if you just need a second opinion, guess what editors do? They give you second opinions. We are here. We are people. We do as much writing as anybody else. We probably do even more writing than some writers do, believe it or not.
I can honestly believe that simply because, again, writer. But my first character became my co-author on my second story simply because, well, he was good at his job.
Anyway, getting back to track here, Sapphire, could you go ahead and throw your suggestions on editing?
Alright, for editing, just as a general rule, for editing, if you can't give good criticism, then you shouldn't give any criticism at all. If you can't, like, for instance, if all you can say about something is, this is good, that's not criticism. You're giving a compliment.
I think we kind of went off a little bit here. We're talking about people writing fanfics. Could you give suggestions to people that need to have their fanfics edited?
Okay.
Yes, go to fanfiction.
Actually, he's pretty right, as my editor has said, hey, this is good, but I need I think this would be better.
Okay.
And since I'm
Hey,
you, and
Hold
since
on,
I'm
hold on.
it'll-
Tokoi.
now that I'm back on.
Tokoi, he got the topic. We're good.
Yeah. So, basically, in order to find an editor, you very simply go to where the editors are and say, I need someone to edit my story. There are several communities out there. FemFiction has pretty good...
There are a few I can recommend.
Yeah. Fiction has a pretty good way for you to find editors, and that's look in the comments. Simple as that. Just, you can put a comment on your story saying, if anyone wants to help me edit this is clearly a work in progress, and I'd really appreciate it. You have people like me that'll just see that and be like, well, they asked for it, so why not? Basically, in order to get help, ask for it. People aren't just going to appear and say, oh, I wanted to offer some suggestions on a story, because, frankly, they just, you're not grabbing their attention. You're not really saying, oh, hey, yeah.
There are actual groups. If you're like me and I like to have it edited before I post it, there are groups you can post to, which I've just put them in the chat. The three I used were proofreading, pre-reading, and writing. Or excuse me, proofreading, pre-reading, and editing was one of them. The Equestrian Critics Society, which they had a slow response time, but it's understandable because they do really in-depth stuff. And then Authors Helping Authors. So just find a group that is active, that has people that are willing to look at your story, and be patient with them because they're people like you and me who have lives. They gotta do other stuff. But yeah, be open to criticism and realize that sometimes you have to share your vision for the story with them in order to understand where you're trying to go. And a lot of the times, it just ends up being like syntax that you need help with, and other times it's if they're saying, I'm lost, I don't know what's going on, usually that's an indication that your general reader isn't going to either, and you may need to expand on some ideas. But yeah, I would agree that either, doing it beforehand is a godsend because it helps your early readers to go ahead and get it proofread before, but also, take your comments both with a grain of salt, but also to heart, so you know what you need to change.
Yeah.
One big thing I can throw out here right off the bat, spell check only takes you so far.
Oh my goodness, yes, please. Preach it! Preach it!
Yes, you can spell check, and that will help, but it will not show you grammar mistakes or even misspellings that are technically correct.
Yeah.
Unless you got a grammar program with that spell check.
The grammar program that would... There's no grammar program worth a damn.
Yeah, just remember, if you intended to write the word door and you wrote doom, it's still going to keep it doom.
But yes, be sure to take...
the doom!
Just remember that editors are your friends. They are trying to help you out. Hopefully they can give you some constructive criticism, and just listen to the criticism. Don't immediately get upset if they say, this doesn't quite flow this well, or there's something wrong with this. They're not attacking you. They say you suck. You probably need a different editor.
Yes.
Also, if they're saying that you're repetitive, your best friend is the thesaurus. The thesaurus will give you a vocabulary 10 times larger than what you have now.
Yes.
Yeah. If you use Google Docs and you highlight a word that's been a repetitive one, you can click and define and look up the source on the internet just to make a different word.
Alright, in any case, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next topic here, which is going to be distribution. You got your story, you've fleshed it out, you've at least got the first chapter going, your editor, it doesn't immediately cry every time he reads it, you're ready to go.
Absolutely.
So what you actually want to do, let me pull up FemFiction really quick.
Already done.
One, finding relevant groups. But number two, do they still have it? Okay, in the bottom left of FemFiction, there's stats. And it tells you how many users are online. Try to find a good time when you see there are a lot of users online, and go ahead and drop it.
It does?
Just go ahead and post it.
Yeah, that's something that I don't normally use because I just post.
Oh, hey, yeah,
when
right there.
Like
2,117, right. Nice.
Usually a good idea is to post it like 3 or 4 toward the end of the week when people are like winding down.
Do you have the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. But FemFiction is just one avenue. There are multiple places that you can actually distribute a story.
There's DeviantArt and fanfiction.
Yes, DeviantArt is also... Hold on, one thing at a time. You got FanFiction, which is pretty much the primo place for any My Little Pony fan fiction that you create to post. Of course, some people may say, I don't want to post pony fan fiction. I want to post Kingdom Hearts fan fiction. Well, you got DeviantArt, where you can actually post your own fan fiction through there. It's not just art. It's any type of artistic expression. Which fan fiction is an easy one for that.
I have seen so many comic strips on DeviantArt, and a lot of them are actually pretty good too. Have you seen some comic strips on DeviantArt?
Yeah, we've shown a few.
Yep. Another one, if this is a little bit more old school, but this covers pretty much everything. So if you don't want to do DeviantArt for some odd reason, fanfiction.net also exists. They'll be granted it is very lackluster.
Yeah.
Well, it's to the point of you want to read fanfiction, you get your categories and you find your fanfiction.
I'll also say this: fanfiction is usually a fairly voluminous medium in terms of how many stories are submitted. If you, let's say, you find a pool of groups that you want to submit your story to, if you submit it to all of them at once, anyone who didn't log in that day will probably never see it. So try to spread out your distribution. Like, have your main day where you post it to your key relevant groups, but like pace it throughout probably a week or so in terms of where you're posting it, so it's not just gone and buried under a bunch of other stories.
And worst possible case, or you're really enterprising and you really don't want to do distribution under normal situations, Google Docs is also a possibility.
Yeah, but that's also where you can work with your editor if you have them on a personal level.
Right. The thing about Google Docs is it does have its questions.
I would say go with Google Docs if you plan on using fanfiction as your main medium, because every time one of you loads it, when it's in like the pre-post stage, it counts as a view. And when you finally post it and you've got like 250 views and no ratings, people tend to overlook that because they're like, it's a bleh story. So I would actually suggest working not in the website you plan to post it, so you're not having blank views.
That's definitely a good idea. Also, with the Google Docs distribution, though, it's not going to post out on any forum or anything for people to see. You actually have to take your link and post it yourself in your Facebook or your Tumblr followers or Twitter or wherever else you can get the information out.
Mm-hmm.
Although it was funny, that was pretty much how a lot of the fan fiction for Pony really got around, pretty much like that. Yeah, that actually was an interesting way of distribution, and even nowadays, if you really do look for some of the older, more familiar stories, such as Spiders' or Cupcakes, you would actually only find them in Google Docs. They've never really had a fanfiction posting. Yeah, it was funny how many fanfiction authors actually resisted going to fanfiction at first. Yeah, a lot of them just didn't want to transition over. Yeah. Even though FimFic offered a much easier way to post your stories.
Yep. I'll just say this right now. I know where Artembargo lives.
But in any case, these are the 4 main distributions. There are probably more different ways you could distribute your story. It's up to you to find them if you really want to. These are just the 4 that I've seen a lot of stories go on, and I can highly recommend easily for anyone. And finally, the best and most horrible topic: criticism.
Oh,
you're posting on the internet. People are reading this stuff, and do you know what? Some people are jackasses. They're assholes. These are the people that you hate. You want to punch them in the face, but you don't know who in the hell they are, and they know that.
There are reasons why there are giveaway videos.
Myself.
There are reasons why there are giveaway videos that have dislikes. It's why you're giving away free stuff because they don't like you.
One guy who I met, name is Ruben. Dude, complete and total jackass. Just stay away from those people. Just block them. Just block them.
Just right off the bat, if it is not constructive, if it is not useful, if it is just basically saying you suck, everything you do is suck, or
they're just calling you a jack. If you just they're just calling you a jackass for making this. Just block them.
Block them.
Just give them
your dick.
Just give them the finger and then face them out.
Yeah, the only bad thing I ever had come on to because they either read it or just pass me off by somebody else. But the one thing that started controversy in my comment section on fanfiction was a past where someone was listing off what I did wrong, and I replied by saying, "Thank you for this, I'll improve here." A new person who didn't see that before was reading through the comments and saw that and said, "Hey, you are blasting this dude for no damn reason. Why are you doing this?" I vehemently said, "Hey, this was old, and it improved." And then that person said the same thing that I said, only he gave it from his point of view.
But the thing is that with every single thing you post everywhere on the internet, I've gotten lambasted on my freaking podcast. I got torn apart when I posted my first Top Brony meetup. That kind of sucked. But the thing is that there are dicks. There are jerks. There are people that like to just make your life horrible. These are the trolls of the internet. And they should not be taken not lightly. They should be taken lightly. They should be laughed at. Because all they are doing is just trying to get a rise, and they are not providing anything constructive.
You know what? Sometimes they're just trying to pull the attention on themselves.
That too. They're just whiny little mama's boys. Ignore the criticism that is not constructive or even useful. If it doesn't give you anything, if it says that this is if somebody's saying this is horrible because of this and this and this, that's constructive. Yeah, it's rather mean-spirited, but it's still constructive.
And it helps you grow better.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's the thing there.
Jackass for making it just plain. No.
But that also brings up the next thing. If you do get criticism, sometimes it is going to be mean-spirited. Don't listen to what they said. Listen to what they are saying. If they're saying that that your characters are pretentious and weak, that actually might be a very good comment on on something that is missing in your writing that you can work on. Making your character stand out a little bit more, make them a little bit stronger, more defined. Admittedly, it's hard to listen to somebody when they're basically blasting you and basically saying that you're doing things wrong, but it's the people that are willing to tell you that you're doing something wrong that can sometimes give you the best advice.
Actually, I have a story about this, about bad, comments on a story. Basically, someone said, "I don't like this," and I asked them, "Well, why don't you like it?" It gives some criticism and said, "Oh, I just don't like ponies." And why are you on the premier My Little Pony fanfiction website? Why are you even, commenting? And I I was just like, you're the type of person that's just trying to get a rise, trying to...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just somebody that has no life.
I've only had that one happen once, and that was on a picture.
There are literally people in this world whose idea of a good afternoon is to log on to something that they don't enjoy and complain about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are pretty much the drama queens in the worst way. Isn't that a Blinked?
Yeah,
I just came back in.
Guys on the bottom
Drama queen.
saying this, Rayo and McDaddy. Yeah,
all
day long.
I was just talking about criticism.
You're a drama queen.
We're just talking about
Because I
criticism.
don't have a job, okay?
All right.
I have a perfectly legitimate reason to be doing that.
Okay, but in all honesty,
Already doing me.
but yeah, if you're not getting criticism on your stories, but you want criticism, ask for it. People are more than willing to tell you what they think. Very willing to tell you what they think.
And
I'm
even
begging
though
you,
just
let me tell you what I think. It's
put your
important.
hands to the computer and you choke them on the other side.
Yeah.
Just block 'em.
You're not going to get destroyed because you ask somebody to tell you what they think. Yeah, they're probably going to be a little bit harsh about it if they really don't like it, but again, it's okay to ask for criticism as well. Just prepare, you might get a flood of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
And also, even if they are, see if it's a repeat thing. Like if someone says, "Oh, your character's so flat, I could make a flat sandwich with it." See if the other people think, "Yeah, the character's not as interesting," or "I don't get." Even if it's a troll, see if there's some gold within that pile of dookie.
Which, true on that one.
Mm-hmm.
At the time when I got this one guy who said, "Your music's too loud," I started going back through the views, and it turns out that I had the bass up too loud when I created it the first time.
Yeah. Sometimes listening to your criticism actually gives you the best ideas. In fact, I found out that some of our podcasts had some really horrible recordings, and that's when I started to realize my microphone is really blowing it.
It is now excessively.
Yeah. Any case, I believe that should pretty much sum it up in general. Now you can go out and write a fanfic that we will all probably ignore. But, you know...
Hey! Ignore,
But-
not hate. Ignore. Ignore.
You can
Keyword.
post it.
Worries, I won't ignore it.
Nah. But in all honesty, we hope that for some of you who were looking to write a fanfic, or were just starting out, or maybe stopped writing fanfic because of something that went wrong, this gives you some ideas and some hope to go ahead and get out there. Fanficking is always going to be welcome. It's always going to be enjoyed. It's been done forever. And there are no bad stories, just bad writing.
No, there's no bad stories, just bad wording.
Well, bad writing, but yeah. And sometimes some really bad authors, but in all honesty, if you're really that bad, you're probably not even going to care.
Yeah.
So,
It's like one of my college professors told me, is, you know, you don't have to be a good writer to write your doctorate. You just have to have a good doctorate. You have to have good content. You know, you can be the worst writer in the world, and then suddenly you'll be the premier person in that field, you know? It doesn't take a writer to write. It takes basically a good point, a good organization, and your own willingness to do so. Your own willingness to basically pretty it up, doll it up, and, you know, send it off. Because if you don't have that, then, well, you should find a new hobby. Because that's the main thing about writing, is it takes time. It will probably cause you to claw your eyes out at some point. When you realize it's like 6 a.m. and you only got halfway through a story that you're supposed to edit. You know?
Alright, now we probably go ahead and wrap up this topic altogether.
Yeah.
So, that is pretty much it. So, you have your ideas on how to write, on how to get editing, on how to distribute. Everything is there. All we can do now is wish you the best of luck, and hopefully your fanfics will be out there entertaining the masses, or maybe even getting a book deal. Or worst case, maybe you'll at least get a few good audiences. That's always a fun thing. Now,
I'll go ahead and answer Krim really quickly. He has one last question, if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead.
He's asking, how do you avoid self-insertions? Pretty much, you shouldn't avoid self-insertions unless it doesn't really fit into the story.
Yeah, I mean, look at Stan Lee. He keeps inserting himself.
Yeah.
The thing is, when you have, if your OC is representing you, you need to make sure that you're explaining the character's thought process, because if you're using your own thoughts, you'll be like, oh, that makes sense, and you just, like, people say there are gaps in the logic that you're not filling in because you're thinking it all in your head. So make sure that if you are doing self-insertion, that you're laying everything out so people know, just like you would for a normal character.
Yeah, that's something else that you gotta think of. You have to write down thoughts of the character, not just, oh, I think this would be good.
Alright.
You have to actually write their thoughts down in order for people to understand what they are thinking.
Alright, well, in that case, I appreciate you putting into the call, but I just really wanted to be a part of this, so...
No, I understand. Thank you very much for your time.
Letting me be
No problem.
part of the call, too.
Well, we still got a show. We still got a little bit more show left. We're just ending the discussion part. Now we're going to the video segment, so we'll go ahead and say goodbye to Sapphire. Thank you very much for your input on this.
No
Which
problem.
I need to duck out as well.
All right, and we'll go ahead and say goodbye to Deal as well.
Alright.
Good night, everybody.
Jerk.
Bye, Deal.
I'll just wake up at 6:30 then, I guess. I can wait.